What I'm about to tell you is 100% real. Every detail, every word, every situation in this story is true. I could swear it on whatever is necessary. It's real, and I need you to believe me, take precautions, and respect this kind of thing. Until very recently, I lived in a small neighborhood, a piece of land that at one time had 5 houses, but over the years only 3 remained. 2 of them had fallen into such disrepair that they were basically uninhabitable, so the owner stopped renting them, even though she never demolished them. In one of the remaining houses lived my mother and me. In another lived a neighbor my age, someone I had known since high school. The third house was only used as storage by a man who ran a couple of market shops. He only came about twice a week to drop off or pick up merchandise. So there were only 3 of us living on a land full of houses that were practically about to collapse. It already felt like something out of a horror movie. My neighbor had been, for a large part of his life, a true believer in Santa Muerte. You could tell from the multiple tattoos on his body, and also from a huge altar inside his house, one that made me very uncomfortable every time I had to go in. My mother is a very faithful Catholic. She follows her religion strictly, so she never liked the faith our neighbor had in that figure. At some point, things started going well for him. He got a really good job, and he had a girlfriend who looked very sweet. From what I could tell just by sharing space with her, she seemed like an excellent person. He also returned to school. It looked like a great time in his life. Maybe that's why the need to believe in something slowly slipped further down his priorities list. The altar, which used to be full of candles and other things like incense and objects I didn't recognize, started looking more and more abandoned. One afternoon, I was alone at home when I heard a loud sound coming from my neighbor's house. I called out from my window, but he didn't answer. I thought I saw him walking around inside. I went out and got closer to ask what was happening, to make sure everything was okay. I stood right at his door, but he still didn't respond. I went back home, and then I heard something opening behind me. I came back, and since he wasn't answering, I grabbed a small cross I had near me and went inside to check, thinking there might be a thief. There was apparently no one there. But the house had a strong, strange smell, like herbs or something similar. In the end, in the living room, a bit darker than usual because all the nearby windows were closed, I saw that the Santa Muerte altar was completely destroyed. I could feel something wrong in my back and in my chest, the feeling that someone was in there, waiting for me behind a door. I left quickly and called him on the phone to tell him what had happened. He answered in a calmer tone than I expected, and he told me he would be back soon. That night I saw him return with a few little candles. And after that, I noticed that from that day on, one candle lit the altar again. But it was still nothing like the excess he used to dedicate before. 1 or 2 weeks later, he and I played cards at my house when we heard a sound coming from one of the unoccupied houses. A scream, someone pounding the wall. We grabbed a bat and a kitchen knife and went to check. The first 2 rooms were empty. There were just a few boxes and some clothes left behind by the old residents. We walked slowly toward the last room, expecting something, only to find it empty too. Then we heard the same scream, coming from inside one of the rooms we had already checked. And we had to go back through there to be able to leave. With courage that almost didn't feel like ours, we went back. Behind a few boxes we found a small black cat. She looked like a stray, on the verge of giving birth. We laughed, nervous laughter, and the 2 of us moved some rags into a box so she'd be more comfortable. That night she had 3 kittens. Because it was raining and the ruined house had leaks everywhere, he decided to bring the cat and keep them at his own house that night. The next day we went to check on the kittens and bought food for the cat. That afternoon my neighbor went out with his girlfriend, and he asked me to keep an eye on his new tenants. I checked before it got dark and then went home with my mother to eat dinner. I remember clearly that I was watching videos online when suddenly one of them started having trouble loading, right in the middle. In the silence that followed, I heard a loud crash, like wood breaking outside. I looked out and the first thing I saw was a flashing glow coming from my neighbor's house. Inside there was fire. I ran out barefoot while screaming for my mother. I got inside his house and realized the fire was in the living room. The altar was still intact in the back, but the piece of furniture where he had put the kittens was completely engulfed. The fire had already started reaching the ceiling. I ran outside to get water without thinking, and my mother followed the sound of the animals crying as they burned. My mother has never liked animals. We've never had pets, but I still remember that image, my mother standing in front of the flames, using her hands to yank the box and the drawer holding the kittens away from the burning furniture. The neighbors came over because of the smoke. They started running with buckets of water to try to put out the fire. One of them ran out carrying the cat in his arms, and it was dead. She had died near the furniture where the kittens were. I'm sure she was trying to save her babies from the fire. One neighbor said, stopping at the entrance, with the bucket in his hands, "There's someone inside." Another stopped beside him, right before the hallway that led into the living room, and the two of them just stared. "Please hurry," someone said. "The house is burning." I told them to keep going, to hurry up, but when I reached where they were, I understood why they had stopped. In the living room, in the middle of the fire, a cadaver-like figure was watching us. It was death. The people who saw it still insist it was just an optical illusion, fire playing tricks, maybe the smoke and their own confused senses, maybe imagination making a silhouette appear behind the flames. They try to explain it away. But I know what I saw. The firefighters arrived in time to save my house from the fire, but not my neighbor's house, and not the unoccupied ones. There was total loss. What they told us was that the fire started when a candle fell in the living room. But I saw that what was on fire was the furniture holding the cats, about 2 meters away from the altar, and that same candle was there too. I also saw that when I entered the first time, the altar was intact. My neighbor never came back. In fact, I lost contact with him. We moved soon after, because we couldn't stand the smell of death. Only one kitten survived. She recovered from her burns. Now you can hardly see the marks, and she's our pet. Her name is Luz. My mother is also recovering from burns on her hands. And the three of us, we carry marks that prove what real is in this story.